learned this week that that's Joe Keery. Joe is Joe Keery. What the fuck? I don't know if that was common knowledge and everyone knew that except for me, but when I found that out, I was like, no shot. And ever since I've been like, am I a Joe Keery head? I'm like, am I? Good morning. Did my hair and makeup all cute and nice because I have a very important photo shoot happening today. Modeling for something very exciting. Life has been very overwhelming and confusing and crazy lately. It's like the feeling of entering a new era of your life, but every other week. It feels like everything is changing so quickly. I'm changing so quickly, and it's all good things, eventually good things, right? But there's definitely some growing pains, and I think I've been struggling with burnout for a while now, which I've talked about before, and I'll have glimpses of thinking that I'm over that and then I'm through the burnout because I'll work on one project that I'm super excited about, and then after that project ends, I'm like sort of back to where I was before. So we're figuring it out as we go, I guess. But I feel like there's been a lot of moments recently where I have felt like, oh my god, I feel so bad. I feel overwhelmed, I feel stressed out, I feel confused, I feel like I'm not doing well, I feel like I'm like failing in a lot of aspects of my life right now. And maybe that's just me being overcritical of myself and always wanting myself to be a finished product. And maybe that's in part because my job is to be myself. So there's a certain pressure that gets added there to be interesting. And some days I don't feel like I'm interesting. And I look big picture and I'm like, I think everything that's happening right now, everything that I'm feeling right now is for the better, but the growing pains still feel like growing pains when you're in the middle of it. And I've definitely felt a little confused and out of place during this phase of life. Before we get into the super messy, confusing, I don't know what the fuck is going on in my 20s vlog, let me talk about today's sponsor, our friends over at Beducated. Beducated is an online course platform filled with audio, video, and written guides, all with the intention of enhancing your love and sex life. Beducated is the sex ed you always wanted but definitely never got. They've got courses about just about everything under the sun, from courses that take a more educational approach, but also covering more fun topics as well that you probably wouldn't hear about in a standard sex ed class. Some of these topics include dirty talk, blowjobs, threesomes, strip teasing, anal sex, sex aftercare, as well as a ton of different courses about how to really connect with your body during sex, during masturbation, and work through any mental blocks that might arise as well. So the courses on Beducated cover a range of topics. I think there's pretty much something for everybody. I'm a huge fan of Beducated because I think that we all deserve places, both online and in real life, to be able to ask questions and explore our sexuality without fear of judgment. For example, one of my favorite courses over on Beducated is their course on vulva orgasms. In this course, they focus on understanding the benefits of masturbation, different techniques to achieve orgasm, exploring your anatomy, and how to incorporate lubrication and sex toys into your self-sex routine. I think especially for people that have not been encouraged to explore masturbation and achieving an orgasm on their own before, it is an extremely helpful course. And for Black Friday, Beducated is doing a huge sale where you're able to get the yearly pass for 60% off. And for viewers of my channel, they're extending this deal throughout the entire month of November. So if you click the link in the description down below and use my code Maddie, you will get 60% off the yearly pass at Beducated, so long as you use the code during the month of November.
The song has started now, and you're just finding out.
Thank you.
Now isn't that a laugh? A major sacrifice, but clueless at the time. Enter Caroline.
Got back from my secret little photo shoot, made myself some lunch, sat on my couch and scrolled through TikTok for a little bit too long. And now I'm on my roof enjoying the beautiful, gorgeous, crisp fall weather. One of the first truly crisp fall days that we have had in New York. It was 75 fucking degrees a few days ago. I've talked about dealing with loneliness through this phase of life before, and it is something that I think about a lot. I think a sentiment that I emphasize a lot just in passing in my life, whether it's to my therapist or on my podcast or to other friends. I feel like I say a lot that I go through life alone, or that I spend most of my time alone. And I don't say that in a negative way. I say it in, a matter-of-fact way. It's just the truth. And I say this not because I don't have community or that I don't have people that I love and spend lots of my time with. I'm totally surrounded by people that love me. I have an amazing family. I have so many friends that care deeply about me. It's not that I'm lacking people in my life whatsoever, but I still sort of see myself as being someone who goes through life alone. And I say this because my life's not really tied to anyone. I don't have coworkers. I don't have a partner. I don't have anyone whose life is totally wrapped up in mine. I'm not in college anymore. I don't have roommates. I don't have people that I see in classes every day, or even people that are on the same life path as me right now. And this is something I think about a lot because I think this is something that everyone goes through at some point in your life. I think it'd be kind of wild to expect your life to be in alignment with other people for the entire duration of your life. And I feel like up until this point, up until this past year, I've always had someone my life was in alignment with, live at home for the first 18 years, and my life is really connected to my siblings, to my parents, to my friends at school, to the people that I was on dance team with, these people that I spent so much of my life with and that my schedule was very attached to. Go to college, sort of switches. You are not around your family all the time, assuming you went to college away from your hometown. You build these new groups of friends at college, people that are in your classes that you sort of know, people that become your close friends, your roommates. You start to build new circles of people, and it's really easy to, have your lives totally wrapped up in one another because you do so much of the same things. And then you graduate, and hopefully you're able to get a job once you leave college. I started my full-time job literally a few days after I graduated. And then you have coworkers, and you have people that you see every single day that you are working towards a common goal with. And in December of last year, I quit my job to work for myself. And I think since then, I have entered an era of my life that feels a little lonely. And I feel like people hear the word lonely and it sits negatively. People think it's a bad thing. I don't want it to come off as a bad thing as I'm saying it right now, because it actually feels like it has been such a good thing for me. I think that going through this period of time in my life where my life is really completely mine, completely up to me, it's challenged me in a lot of ways. I think emotionally it's challenged me in a lot of ways. And I say that loneliness feels like it's a net positive, like it's a good thing, because I feel like I've undergone so much growth because of this. Because my life is really just me for the moment, and I don't really have anyone that my life is totally tied to in a constant way. Going through life by myself, having this period of extreme independence and a moment where I really get the opportunity to build a life for myself that feels very uninfluenced by what other people might want me to do, because my life isn't tied to anybody else right now. But I think looking at it big picture, this period of hyper independence is going to be really worthwhile for me. As lonely and at times confusing as it may be, again, it's a lot of growing pains. There's a lot of moments where I'm like, I feel uncomfortable and I don't exactly know what the learning is here, but I just feel like this is good for me. And obviously it's not a forever thing, which I think is the other comforting part that allows me to just enjoy the growth that comes in this period, because there's going to be other phases of my life that I enter where maybe I'm not living alone anymore. Maybe I live with a partner, which sounds crazy because I really never want to do that, but I'm just trying to give you an example. You know, maybe I'm in a long-term relationship. Maybe one of my best friends becomes my next door neighbor and we end up spending most of our days together. I don't know how life is going to go for me, right? But I do know that I'm a firm believer that there's a lot of good that comes out of being good on your own, being comfortable alone. I think there's a lot of strength in being good by yourself, in being able to build a life by yourself and feel solid in that. I've always said that I think that being alone and feeling happy alone is a skill that I think everybody will have to develop at some point in their lives. And despite the many moments where I wished away the loneliness, looking back, I am actually very thankful that it's a skill that I've had to develop at a younger age.
Something that I feel like has come and really grown in my mid-20s is my sort of acceptance, both for where I'm at currently, but also for where everyone else around me is at currently. I feel like I work really hard to give patience and grace to everyone, especially to myself, because we tend to be harder on ourselves than we are the people around us, the people that we love. But I feel like that's been like a recurring theme of this sort of section of life, is just trying to remember that nobody, no fucking buddy, even the people that appear to have everything figured out, do not. We are all at some level, at some degree, feeling anxious, feeling like we don't measure up, feeling like other people's lives are more interesting than ours, feeling like we have less to contribute than other people. It's so dumb. I know that it's so dumb, but I feel like I struggle with comparison a lot. Even earlier today, for example, I was on YouTube, I was watching some videos that were in my subscriptions, and I found myself thinking, this person seems like they're in a much better routine than I am with their creativity. They seem like they always have new ideas. Everything they put out is so great. I'm so like in awe of the level of output they're able to produce and how it appears to come so naturally to them. And that's a thought that I've had quite frequently recently, just because I feel like I've been struggling with burnout for a while, which really sucks because I know that what I'm feeling right now is not unique. Like, every creative person goes through periods where they're finding it difficult to create, or maybe it's going back and forth with what feels easy and what doesn't. But I think my toxic trait is sometimes believing that you can assume that other people are not feeling those things through social media. Because I think someone could easily assume that about me as well, right? Somebody could watch my videos, could watch the therapy video and go, wow, this is so well made, this is so well thought out, I love this video, it really resonated with me, like, I wish that I could produce something like this, but I feel so uninspired right now. When the reality is that I feel that way too. I also feel so uninspired and just like burnt out and kind of like, I don't have a lot to give to other people right now, which is hard because my job is giving parts of my personality to the internet. It's me, I am the product. So when I feel drained, it's like, well, fuck, this directly impacts my output because everything I do is me. Fuck. And obviously, I don't think I'm the only person that's ever struggled with burnout. I know that I'm not alone in this feeling, but when you're in it and you can observe other people, and whether or not it's true doesn't even matter, but if your brain perceives these people, all of these people online, as not having to deal with the thing that you deal with, like, it's hard for comparison not to start to kick in, you know?
You take the man
also think I've had moments where this realization hit harder when it was coming from the other side. Like, I watched someone else realize that I felt the same way that they did, and they were like, oh, I think I just figured that you didn't feel that way. Let me give you an example. So if you follow me on Instagram or listen to my podcast or are a regular consumer of my content, you probably know that I go to trivia pretty regularly. Every fucking Wednesday. I have a trivia team and I play trivia every Wednesday. And I feel like when I meet new people, that's something that they'll ask me about usually. They see me post about it and they're like, oh, like, you go to trivia every week? Like, that sounds so fun. I've always wanted to go trivia. And people usually say something along the lines of like, you know, I've always wanted to do trivia, to have a trivia team, but I don't have like a friend group or anything. So I'm so jealous that you go to trivia and you have a friend group that you're able to do that with. And I always think that's so funny because I used to say that. Up until the moment I made my trivia team, I used to say that because I don't have a friend group either. I've always been someone who had more individual one-on-one friendships than I did have like groups of friends that were all friends with each other. And I think finally in July of this past year, I was like, you know what? I am going to start a trivia team and I'm just going to invite everyone I know, and hopefully we'll have so much fun that they'll want to keep coming back. And even though these are all my friends and they don't know each other, maybe they'll get to know each other. And that's exactly what happened. So it started off just me, my friend August, and my friend Jordan. We were the three that went that first night together. And then I invited my friend Amy the next week. And then my friend Alex. And then Alex started coming every week. And then I invited my friend Rachel to join. And at the time, I had never even met Rachel in person. We were just internet friends. And I was like, you want to come to trivia? And then I invited my friend Jordan. And Jordan invited her friend Haley. And then Haley turned into a friend of mine as well. So it's like, it just sort of turned into a thing. And now we have a trivia team that goes every week. We're called Lads on Tour. And it's so much fun. But this started out as me being like, God, I wish I had a friend group. I'm so jealous of people that have friend groups. I wish that I had people to do this thing with. And then being like, fuck it, let's throw something together. I'll invite someone, you invite someone. Let's just get a little group together. And hopefully it works out. But of course, it's easy to look at my life through social media and be like, I'm so jealous of Maddie. She has this big friend group that she goes to trivia with. I wish I had a group to do trivia with. But none of the people that I do trivia with knew each other before I dragged them all to the same place. And I think there's been other moments like that in conversations with people where you realize that you are more similar than you think that you are. Like last week, I was selling my clothes at a plus size fashion closet event that happened here in New York. And before the event started, the days leading up to the event, I was literally so fucking nervous. I always know that I'll be fine. I feel like secure enough in myself to know like, it'll be good. It'll all work out. Like the worst case scenario is not happening, whatever. But I still feel really nervous to meet a bunch of new people and talk to strangers all day. I'm a very introverted person and I have my routines, I have my people, I have the things I like to do, and I sort of stick to those things. And doing a lot of socialization with people I don't know is something that very much stresses me out. Any event in general, like any influencer event, creator event that I've been to, I don't know what the fuck to say to anybody. And it's like, even people that I'm like, I think you're so cool. I don't even know how to say that. I get so choked up and scared. Even though I know that if somebody liked my videos and saw me out and about or saw me at an event, I would want them to come and say something to me. I'm like, oh, you should absolutely come and say something to me because I feel the same way. But it's funny that even in situations where the roles are reversed, I find myself being like, I'm too nervous to go up to this person. I don't know what to say. What's going on? There's so much happening. But in a way, it's been kind of nice to have those moments because even though I will continue being a nervous girly who's just generally more introverted, so socializing takes a little bit more of my energy away from me. It's nice to have those moments where you realize that we're all worrying about the same things. We all feel weird sometimes going up to someone and being like, hey, I think you're cool. I want to be your friend. Or I like your outfit. You're so pretty. You're so cool. Like, we all feel weird to put ourselves out there sometimes in so many different capacities. This is just one example of that. When you're feeling that in the moment, it feels like such a lonely feeling. Like, you're like, God, I'm so weird. Like, everyone else is socializing so easily, and I'm like, I have no idea what to say to anybody. But then you realize that you're not the only one that thinks that, and that lots of us are feeling that way at social gatherings. And I think it's just always worth reminding yourself that, especially in eras of your life where there's a lot of change happening and there's a lot of growing pains, and you're learning so much and you're growing into yourself so much, and there's so much goodness that's happening, there are still going to be moments within all of that goodness where you look at your life and you think, do I know anything of what's going on? I feel so confused. I feel like I don't have anything figured out. I'm trying so hard, and I notice my growth. I notice how I'm shifting. I notice how things are changing. But God, even with all that change, I still feel so confused. It's so much easier to be super critical of ourselves and believe that everyone else has figured out some secret key to life that we haven't yet. Maybe this all just goes back to the acceptance that I was talking about earlier too. Accepting where you're at. Accepting the fact that so much of life is uncertainty, and sometimes that's uncomfortable. We all have our own strengths. We all have our own successes, things to celebrate. And just because the things that you have to celebrate aren't exactly the same as the person next to you's doesn't make your accomplishments and your successes and the things that you have, the things that you've figured out, any less important or more important. You know, we're all on different paths and different journeys. And you might look at someone else and think, God, they have something that I don't have, and I must be so behind because I don't have that. But they might look at you and think the same thing about a different section of life that they perceive you to be ahead of them in. I think we're all just too hard on ourselves, honestly. I think we're all just figuring it out as we go.
Being in your 20s is like trying to balance all the things you think that you should want and all the things that you have wanted in the past, and trying to find out what you actually want.
My early 20s, I very much was looking for validation. I'll say it outright. I needed approval. I needed to look like the adult, play the adult part, and just be that successful, young, working professional, you know? And that just wasn't bringing me the most joy. But once I actually stopped, started going to therapy, started doing the work to get to know myself and to love myself again, it is like incredible. And I think that's the one thing that like gets me so excited to get more into my 20s and into my 30s is that I know myself the most I ever have, and I love myself the most I ever have. And I'm 27, and it took like 4 years of like really diving in and doing the work of like, who am I, what do I want, to where I feel like I can trust myself a little more.
In high school, my mom recommended studying human resources in college. I did that. I graduated, got a job in the field right out of college. Near my college town where all my college friends were, and I thought that everything was lining up perfectly, but honestly I found that I was depressed, anxious, and I wasn't who I really want to be and who I really am inside. And sometimes I'm mad that I keep hopping from job to job, and I feel like my friends are all hopping from job to job, and we're expected to be in this job for the rest of our lives and pick a career and set that, and that just didn't fit me. I don't fit that mold. And I'm trying to be okay with the fact that job hopping isn't always a bad thing. You're figuring out what you want to do, and that's what your 20s are for.
Feel all your emotions. Stop suppressing that shit, guys. Stop it. And also, if you haven't found love in your 20s, because I haven't, it's totally fine. It's not about you. You are a boss.
I actually turned 30 years old a couple months ago, so I am done with my 20s. For me, I think the biggest thing was learning how to separate who I am and what I want and what I like from what society is telling me I should want or what peer pressure is telling me I should do. I didn't realize how influenced I was by external pressures and trying to make myself into who I thought other people wanted me to be. when I was, in my early 20s and in college. And I think it took a long time for me to realize how much of the things I thought that I liked or I thought defined me really were things that other people had defined for me.
For the first time ever, you're living on your own completely, out of school, away from family, and it's been my first time to truly be alone, which for me has been extremely liberating, exciting, validating. But on the other hand, it can be really lonely. We're all going through this weird period of life together. So in a sense, it's like a community in your 20s.
My early 20s were super tumultuous and highly emotional, not always very fun. It was super hard navigating dynamics socially in college, and then after graduating, it was super hard not having a community, and also just generally not knowing what I was doing or what I was supposed to be doing. And I feel like I just have a really good foundation for my life. I know myself better, and I still have lots of questions about what exactly I want to do in my career, but I have a support system in place for wherever life takes me.
I've been through a lot of hardships, a lot of losses, a lot of heartbreak. I've lost a lot of friends, but I've also grown a lot. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about my values. I've learned about who I am and who I want to be in the future. And I think I credit a lot of that to my want to do more self-reflection over the last few years, and perhaps I can credit some of that to the pandemic and being alone with my thoughts for so long. And also shout out to my therapist, Jennifer.
My 20s have been all about healing my inner child. Every day I wake up and I think, what would 15-year-old me think? And usually the answer is, that's a bad bitch. I'm scared of her.
I feel like your 20s are a time for like the craziest suffering you'll ever experience, but also the most fun and the most lessons you'll learn in order to like equip you with the knowledge and the strength that you need to take on the rest of your life. I also feel like your 20s, at least for me, I've started to understand my mother a lot more and my parents and like the adults that were around me as a kid. I feel like you kind of start to understand how the world works a little bit.
My 20s have been a time of reflection, self-love, and a lot of really challenging moments. Challenging in a way that I've been able to become a way better person. I've been able to grow and understand what I need and what I want.
I'm becoming a lot more in tune with myself. I set boundaries. I do what's best for me while still being respectful to the people in my life that I care about. And I took a lot of risks. I made a lot of mistakes. I followed my heart and I trusted my gut, and it's got me to where I am today, and I'm really happy with where I am today. So I hope that only continues into my next decade. I mean, I still got 4 years left in this decade. What the hell?
Anyways, I love you guys so much. I hope you just take this as a reminder to be patient with yourself and to just be more accepting, offer yourself more patience and grace for where you're at in this current moment, because no matter where that is, it's enough. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.